showing January was the worst month for job cuts since the 2009 Great Recession. CNN senior reporter Matt Egan is joining me now. What else is this report telling you?
Yeah, Sarah, look, this is a bad way to start 2026, right? Layoffs way up, hiring way down. So Challenger Gray and Christmas reports that during the month of January, U.S.-based employers announced just over 108,000 layoffs. Now, that is roughly double January of 2025 and roughly triple the end of last year. In fact, Sarah, as you mentioned, this is the highest since January 2009 during the great financial crisis. Of course, that was just months after the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Now, as far as where the layoffs are, it's really largely in two sectors, transportation and technology, really leading the way. In fact, two companies, UPS and Amazon, account for roughly 40% of the announced layoffs. Also, healthcare, chemicals, and finance as well. Now, as far as why companies are laying off during the month of January, the leading reason was a loss of contract, market and economic conditions, restructuring as well. Artificial intelligence, as you may have guessed, also playing a role as well. So you put all this together, and again, it really paints a concerning picture about the job market. Now, one thing I do want to note, though, is that we're talking about announced layoffs. Economists put more weight on actual applications for unemployment, and first-time jobless claims, they do remain pretty low, and the unemployment rate, it did stabilize at the end of last year. So we've got to pay close attention to what happens next on that, and hopefully we get some more clarity from the official government jobs report, which is expected out next week, delayed because of the government shutdown. One other thing to point out, though, here, Sarah, is this was also a bad month for hiring. Challenger says that just about 5,300 announced hiring plans by companies. That was down 13% year over year. In fact, this was the lowest since Challenger started tracking this back in 2009. And remember, Sarah, all of this comes after last year, which was the weakest for the U.S. job market for job growth outside of a recession since 2003 under George W. Bush. And this report at least suggests that there was no big rebound during the month of January.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. I mean, that's the best way to look at it. It's not good if you are in the market for a job or you've just lost your job. Yeah. It's
or
rough
all those kids who just got out of college.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, Matt Egan. I do appreciate it. John.
Right. This morning, U.S. and Iranian officials are making final preparations ahead of talks set for tomorrow in Oman. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is set to lead the discussions for the United States. Ahead of the meeting, President Trump is issuing a warning to Iran's supreme leader, saying his country should be, quote, very worried.
Should the supreme leader in Iran be worried right now?
I would say he should be very worried, yeah, he should be. As you know, they're negotiating with us.
I know they are, but the protesters have said, you know, where are the Americans? You promised them we would have their back. Do we still have their back?
Well, we've had their back, and look, that country's a mess right now because of us. We went in, we wiped out their nuclear.
So that's the question. If we wipe them out,
we have peace in the Middle East.
Well, this now CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier and CNN military analyst Colonel Cedric Layton. Kim, first to you. There was a period of time yesterday when these talks were off and then on and then in a different place now. What is Iran doing in the lead up to these talks?
Yeah, Iran started campaigning a few days ago to move the talks from Turkey to Oman. Iran is very close to the Omanis. And also, just as a power play, the fact that they pulled it off signals to their own people that they're not being bullied by the American president. That said, just the fact that they're meeting might delay a strike for a few days, but the stuff they're talking about, the U.S. wants them not only to abandon their nuclear program in a way that would keep them from building a nuclear weapon, but to discuss their ballistic missiles, which they consider their key self-defense against Israel, and also to stop their support of proxy groups in Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen. This is how Iran exerts its foreign policy. Basically, the U.S. is asking to cut the Iranians off at the knees diplomatically, and I just don't think they're going to agree.
Colonel Layton, what does Iran get out of time, the time they're trying to buy here?
Yeah, John, one of the things they get is the ability to prepare even further for a possible U.S. strike. So that's one aspect of this. The other thing that they might be able to do in this particular case is prepare their population. You know, as Kim was kind of alluding to here, we have a population that is definitely in favor of regime change, but they will probably turn their views if the U.S. attacks. So that is something that the regime is also preparing for. Basically, it gives them time from a military perspective as well as a propaganda perspective to basically change the battlefield in their favor.
And Kim, to an extent, you think the U.S. may be trying to move the goalposts here a little bit, even if military strikes are inevitable. What do you mean?
Well, President Trump was calling on the people in the streets to keep going, saying the U.S. was locked and loaded to support them. But when he made those threats to Iran, the U.S. didn't have a carrier strike group in the Gulf or the Indian Ocean ready to protect Israel, protect U.S. bases in the Gulf. So I think his military advisors had to tell him at the time, sir, we can't attack right now until we get assets in position. Once those assets got into position, the other thing they got a chance to explain to him is you can't do a decapitation strike in Iran like you could in Venezuela. Maduro was a key leader that you could seize and take out, but Iran is a theocracy that's well entrenched with its security system. You take out the Ayatollah in some manner, shape, or form, you really turn the people against you, as Cedric was alluding to. Plus, it's a really tightly knit system where you replace one, somebody will take that person's place, and the machine stays in power.
So you may not be able to do regime change with the types of strikes the United States is contemplating. You may not be able to stop or to crack down on the Iranians' treatment of protesters with the types of strikes you're contemplating. Cedric, Colonel Layton, what can the United States then do with the types of strikes it may be thinking about?
So one of the things that it could do, at least in theory, John, is it could take out a large portion of the Iranian ballistic missile system. That ballistic missile system is something the Israelis want us to take care of. And if we don't, they will try to do that as well. It's one of the key threats to Israel as the Israelis see it. So that's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen is we could restrike some of the targets in the nuclear arsenal that Iran has, basically a nuclear weapons program. The president alluded to basically a restrike, but not of necessarily the same exact targets that we hit the last time, but new targets, because he talked about targets that where the Iranians were really restarting or trying to restart their nuclear program. So that's the kind of thing that we could actually take care of in the event of military action against Iran.
Kim Dozier, Colonel Cedric Layton, thanks very much. Obviously, watch very closely if and when these talks start, and then the exact language used by each side after. Appreciate it. Sarah?
All right, on our radar for you this morning, a TikTok challenge with dangerous consequences. A 9-year-old in Illinois is now recovering from burns after he put a popular squishy toy called a Neato Cube in the microwave after seeing the trend online. And we got to warn you before we show you what happened to him. Take a look. Ugh. When he put the cube in the microwave, it exploded, covering and burning his face. The local medical center there says this is the 4th case that they have already seen this year involving that toy. The boy, although in a lot of pain, is expected to recover. All right, Trump's RX, his answer to bringing down medicine prices, is expected to launch today. The portal claims to allow cash-paying customers to buy directly from drug makers at cheaper prices. At least 16 pharmaceutical companies are saying that they'll be on board. But the launch has seen delays and calls for oversight. Right now, the website appears still stuck in the coming soon phase. And Draco Malfoy, the icy blonde antagonist from the Harry Potter series, has taken to an unlikely role in China. Here's our Mike Valerio.
What does Draco Malfoy have to do with good luck in China? Draco Malfoy.
So these decorations have popped up all over Chinese social media ahead of the start of the Lunar New Year. That starts on February 17th, and of course it ushers in the year of the horse in the Chinese zodiac. It even got the attention of Tom Felton, the English actor who played the character in the Harry Potter movie series, sharing this on his Instagram story. All of this sudden popularity is thanks to the Chinese translation of Malfoy, which is Ma Fu, with Ma meaning horse and Fu meaning good fortune. It's a tradition for people across China to put the character Fu on their front doors in hopes of blessings and good fortune in the year ahead. So I wonder why Malfoy wasn't everywhere during the Year of the Snake, since he is a Slytherin. Well, better late than never. 新年快乐! Woo! Happy New Year!
That's so cool. Happy New Year. Chinese New Year's here. It's always fun. All right. Move over, Raygun. A new smooth dancer is at the Olympics. This, as you can see, is a dancing robot at the Chinese hospitality house in Milan. It showed off some of his hip-hop dance moves better than Mike Trier. Goodness. He even showed a little. Mike Trier is behind the camera here, and he's acknowledging that his snake and his robot aren't quite as good. But he is showcasing also some Tai Chi. The Milan Cortina opening ceremony is tomorrow. Robots are, by the way, not allowed to compete, but this guy maybe should be given a little something. I don't know, maybe some oil. A new hour of CNN News Central starts right now.